Hi, hello, and greetings to everyone who's watching this video. So my name is Shukri. My ID number is 2020824588, and I'm from AS1202A. So I want to present about my case study, which is lactic acid related to muscle cramp. So before we get started, I want to show a video about how does it feel when having a muscle cramp. So let me show you the situation.
On Fetty, catch Fetty, that's Fetty. Count hella bins when chase that Zelly. Henny on Henny on Henny on Henny. Gang in the spot, get daddy on daddy. Bustin' a 40, spin on your shorty. Don't do Bacardi.
Don't do Bacardi. Bust up in yata, open your mata, shoot up the party.
Did you forget something?
What is it? What did I miss?
You should warm up.
I'm too tough for this.
Okay.
Yeah, it was me in that video. I should warm up though before I play football. So move on to the case study. So here is the case study that I received. So move on to the what is the statement is about. So the statement is about a Malaysian athlete sprinter reports that he feels pain after his workout. He reports that the pain is probably due to lactic acid accumulation, which occur more often in pre-season, usually when he is not in shape. He also reports that the soreness will occur in midst of a particularly long and or fast run when he is pushing himself beyond the normal training limits. He also says that the lactic acid accumulation is not a daily occurrence for athletes, but when it does build up in the muscles, it can make a good productive workout turn into an intensely agonizing experience in a matter of minutes. Gunasegaran, which is the sprinter, wants to understand more about the lactic acid in muscles to improve his performance as an athlete. Gunasegaran was able to research the topic and found that he had number of questions that needed to answer. So this is the case study question. The first one is, where does lactic acid come from during vigorous exercise? Number 2, what is the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration? Number 3, what is the final electron acceptor in aerobic respiration? And number 4, why is lactic acid formed even when the athlete is breathing? And last but not least is, does gender and body size affect accumulation of lactic acid? Why or why not? So, where does lactic acid come from during vigorous exercise? So, first of all, lactic acid is formed and accumulated in the muscle under condition of high energy demand, rapid fluctuation of the energy requirements, and insufficient supply of oxygen. During vigorous exercise, sustained to fatigue muscle pH value decreases to about 6.4 to 6.6. Force generation does not appear to be limited by the high hydrogen ion concentration per second, but is more related to PCR level. Phosphofructokinase may be inhibited by high hydrogen concentration, but inhibition is adequately overcome by increases in the activator AMP and ADP. Next, a high concentration of hydrogen will decrease PCR by a direct effect on the creatine kinase equilibrium and indirectly by an increase in ADP. So the effect of acidosis on glycolysis and on the PCR level will result in a decreased rate of ADP phosphorylation, and it is suggested that ADP increases transiently above the steady state level in the contracting muscle fiber. It is further suggested that the function of NAK ATPase is impaired by the increase of ADP, resulting in an altered ionic balance over the muscle cell membrane. So, muscle fatigue is thus considered to be due to an insufficient rate of ADP phosphorylation, resulting in a block in the activation process or in the excitation or contraction coupling. So, we're moving on to the next question, which is question number 2. So what is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? So let's move on. Aerobic respiration is efficient because it has 38 ATP, which is 38 adenosine triphosphate. Whereas anaerobic is inefficient because it only has 2 ATP. Second of all, aerobic is performed by eukaryotic cells, whereas anaerobic is performed by prokaryotic cells, which is yeast, and eukaryotics, which is muscle cells. Next, in aerobic respiration, glycolysis yields 2 ATP, 2 NADH, and 2 pyruvate, whereas in anaerobic respiration, it only yields 2 ATP and 2 ethanol and 2 CO2 or 2 lactate. Next, aerobic respiration goes from cytosol to mitochondria, whereas anaerobic is only in cytosol. Next one is aerobic respiration uses oxygen as electron acceptor, whereas anaerobic doesn't use oxygen. For your information, the similarity between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration is both of it requires glucose and the use of 2 ATP. Next one is both of them modes of generating energy. So let us move on to the question number 3, which is what is the final electron acceptor in aerobic respiration? So the answer is in aerobic respiration, the final electron acceptor, which is the one who is having the highest or most positive redox potential, and at the end of the ETS is an oxygen molecule, which is O2. This is reduced to water by the final ETS carrier complex, which includes a terminal oxidase and usually a cytochrome. So moving on to the next question, which is question number 4. So the question is, why is lactic acid formed even when the athlete is breathing oxygen? So when the body has plenty of oxygen, pyruvate is shuttled to an aerobic pathway to be further broken down for more energy. But when oxygen is limited, the body temporarily converts pyruvate into a substance called lactate, which allows glucose breakdowns, and thus energy production will continue. So finally, we have come to the last question, which is question number 5. So does gender and body size affect accumulation of lactic acid? Why or why not? The answer is yes, because the main finding of the study was that women have a lower anaerobic capacity compared to men, which is negative 25.71 percentage in relative values and negative 38.11 percentage in absolute values, is attributed mainly to greater participation of glycolytic pathway in men. Why? Because due to their inherent lower amount of muscle mass, women have lower absolute aerobic power. This has been said by Perez Gomez Rodriguez et al. In 2008. As muscles in the greatest consumer of oxygen during exercise, greater muscle mass in men is responsible in part for their greater absolute VO2 max compared to women. So we have the last of all is, so the conclusion of this case study is anaerobic respiration is less energy efficient. However, it allows survival in habitats which is lack oxygen. Within the human body, both aerobic and anaerobic respiration are important to muscle functions. Next, warm up before we do any vigorous activity. If you don't want to end up like me, just like in the video. Last but not least, we must take a great care to our body system. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.